First of all, his hair came in, and I was like, "This man's hair, man, the hair." I mean, it's just a whole experience. I'm like, I just want to just put my whole everything in it and wrap myself in
put
your
your
hair.
foot in it. Put your
Put
foot in
all
it.
everything and wiggle toes, and then grab the beard and just. Let me welcome to the show. Let me introduce him properly because he's a brilliant, he's talented graphic art designer, artist, creative director, and he has this book that is just beautiful, Illustrated Black History, honoring the iconic and the unseen. Let me welcome Mr. George McCalman on the
Thank
Paranormal
you,
Show.
thank
Hi.
you, thank you. It is so good to be here, Karen. I'm not supposed to say this, but I am a fan.
What? Let
I'm
me
a
find out.
fan.
So
I'm
I'm
a
sorry,
fan.
I put you in an objectified position off mic. I didn't mean to do. I meant to do it, but hey,
You meant to do it. You meant
I
to do
did.
it.
I meant to
You
do it.
did. Yeah.
It is sexy. I'm just gonna just let y'all can't see it,
Thank you.
but I was busy doing something, and I looked up and I was like, "What the hell? Hi, hi,
Hi. Hi.
hi."
Hi.
And then we were talking because I said, I pray every day before I come on the air, and I pray for the technology. I do. I say a prayer like, God bless the tech, the Holy Spirit, make sure the tech is good, increase our territory, pray for the listeners, all the callers. And today the tech got blown up. So I'm like, what's the point? I just said a
It
prayer.
happens.
Why
It
did it
happens.
happen? Why does that happen, George? What's the point of praying if you're not covered? If you're not covered.
Because the Lord makes us all work harder than the prayers. It's not just the prayers. You got to put the action into it too. You got to put your foot in. Remember, you were talking about the
Right,
toes. You
right,
got to
right,
wiggle the
right. So I
toes.
can't
You
just say
gotta
the words. I gotta the
mm-mm.
intention's gotta be even stronger.
Intention and
Okay.
action and action.
All right. All
Action
right. We
Jackson.
are abundant. Where are you from? Who are your peoples? What are you doing? How did you get here?
Um, I live in San Francisco. I grew up in New York, and I was originally born in the Caribbean, the island country of Grenada. So
Okay.
my people are all over the diaspora.
And was it New York or San Francisco that influenced your art? When did you first know? Because I'm looking at, we were talking off mic. I mean, these images are just
Thank you.
stunning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
When did you
You
know you could
know,
do this?
the truth is, it was in Grenada. Grenada is my secret sauce of what inspires me as an artist, probably the most. Like I grew up that sensitive, nerdy artist kid who paid attention to nature and human behavior more than what people were actually saying, the words. And so I'm influenced by, green, and I'm interested by sea and, all that ephemeral stuff that is hard to put into, a term paper. Like that's all
Mm.
the stuff that I was paying attention to as a kid. And that is what, as an adult, I can say it's one of the greatest influences is the natural world, the spiritual world.
And how does that show up? We've been having kind of this. I'll be transparent with you. I feel like the bondage that many people are fighting against exists in a space that they don't even see. It's
I
like,
think it is all the invisible struggles that we have on a daily
right.
basis, which is universal. It's everywhere, but it's harder to put into words.
So racism becomes easy because I'm just going to be transparent with you as well. I don't think about racism much. Unfortunately, there are a lot of stories that, you have to cover and the things. It's like 90% of the stuff that I see on my Twitter timeline, I don't even bring into this space because there's A, nothing we can do about it. And B, it's just more trauma that then the focus becomes the trauma, not the overcoming, not the abundance, not the excellence, not the victory, right? It becomes a trauma. And then we, what they. I don't live in a they world. I live in a we, us, what we can do together world, build and create. So for you, is that
yes, that is actually, I wanted to focus on, an aspect of American history that we as Black people know. We know the celebratory aspects of our history. We know it, we interact with it. It's just part of the way that we are able to be joyful in spite of the everyday lives of so many of us, that we all have to attend to racism in some ways, but we we as a people have figured out basically how to not focus on it. And what I wanted to do with this book was basically honor the hardships and the challenges, and kind of dismiss this notion that somehow we have it as bad as our ancestors did. That is absolutely not true in terms of an everyday way, where we're certainly still dealing with institutions. We're certainly dealing with the concept of police and the people who basically terrorize us on a daily basis. But the truth is, we have developed as a community, as a diaspora, a really internal way of being in fidelity to our history and our culture. We are on the inside of our culture.
Yes, George McCalman. George McCalman is here. The book is beautiful, illustrated Black history. I'm going through the table of contents where you illustrate for us.
Illustrated, yes.
It's illustrated, literally illustrated. And there's some names I've never heard of. Now, I think I'm going to say this name I've heard of, but I thought it was interesting that you did her. So we just did a Marcus Garvey drop. We're working with Dr. Julius Garvey to get Marcus Garvey exonerated by this president. He can do it with executive order. Joe Biden can do it with a stroke of a pen. We have a petition out. Amy Ashwood Garvey, powerhouse. What do you know about her? Why did you choose Amy Ashwood Garvey? Why did you do that?
So I'm gonna come clean with my bias. There are more women in this book than men. And I was raised in a maternal family. I was raised in a matriarchy where women are the bosses. And so I grew up knowing the benefits of having that female perspective be, frankly, the dominant perspective. And I feel like
pause. And I wanted to sit.
Yes.
I wanted to sit and
let it settle into everybody's earlobes.
Because women leadership, real women, not women cosplaying as men, women that tap into the growth, the feeding, the nurturing of the feminine,
the divinity.
The Yoruba, Ocean, whatever you, all of that.
That is African.
It's foundational. It's foundational. Y'all go hunt, bring in the food, and let us leave.
And it is the foundation of the success of the Black community, and that women basically are not given our due, even their due, even internally within our own community. And so what I wanted to say is alongside the men that we deify in so much of our expansive culture, that there were women who were doing as much, if not more, than the men. And yeah, I could have put Marcus Garvey in there, but I was actually more interested in the two women he was married to. And so that's what I was focused on. Amy Ashwood Garvey deserves to be as well known as Marcus, and she's not. And so I wanted to redress some wrongs just from my perspective as the person doing this book. I focused more on the women who were the leaders in our movements, in our revolutions, than the men.
I love this book.
Not sorry about it. Not sorry.
No, and never apologize. I feel like we're at a precipice where a lot of things are being cracked and broken open. And it's time for people to walk into their powers, state the thing that is the thing, state it plainly, without apology, because it is what it is. The truth of the matter is, we practice the African ways of knowing, and we put queen mothers and women in the positions that they belonged in, and not under the thumbs and under the yoke and under the, but equal, if not, sitting in a seat of decision making. The world would be a lot better, because
it would be a lot better. We'd have to redress a lot of the concept of war in general, and that's how I still know we're still under the yoke of the male perspective, because there's still too many wars happening in the world. And not to say that if women were ruling, we wouldn't be fighting in some way, because that's human nature. But the way that we fight and engage with each other would just be different.
It would be throwing shoes and drinks.
It is different. Yes.
It would be hair pulling, scratching.
It would be a lot more intimate. It's a totally different way, and it wouldn't raise society. It wouldn't have everyone. It'd be more one-on-one. You deal with the drama and then you move on.
Facts. I mean,
That would
even
be a lot better for the earth.
let me tell you, even the housewives drama is still propelled through some male lens. Like it's the producers of those are not the women except for Basketball Wives. But anyway, I'm gonna move on. Okay, so there's an image because I know too much.
We could talk about the side of, we can talk about that after. Yeah.
Cato Alexander, mixologist. You don't give us a full frontal. You give us a silhouette. Why is that? And who is that?
So there are a few people who I had to basically come up with a spiritual rendering of them because there is no documentation of them. There's no historical photography. And so I made a conscious decision that I was going to illustrate several people that I had no reference for. And I was just going to pull on my the communing that I did with so many of the ancestors to create their portraits. I wanted the portraits to all seem like we sat in a room together and they sat for me while I illustrated them. I wanted it to be intimate. And so in the case of Cato, I knew this man I'd heard about him for years, and it's basically my restaurant friends and my restaurant writer friends and my bar, culture friends. I've been in media for a long time, so I know a lot of folks behind the scenes of these various industries. And so I'd heard about his name for years, and he also has never gotten his due for what he did in establishing the culture of cocktails. That this man basically invented the thing that is just a part of nighttime life that we take for granted all over the country. And nobody knows that it's a Black person who really defined a lot of the cultural parameters that we take for granted. And so I didn't want the fact that I had no rendering of him to keep him out of the telling. And what I created was a very proud, you see the posture is very erect. He is dressed, immaculately dressed, and his presentation is as important as the drink itself, which is really part of, the spirits world is fascinating business in that they have basically placed design. It's one of the best designed industry. There's no cocktail, there's no, alcohol that you buy that is not expertly designed. And so I wanted to show that this man was at the vanguard of that presentation, that being a dandy and being well dressed is something that is it's just in our DNA. We have the best swagger of anyone on the planet. And so we also have the best style, frankly. And so I wanted to show that these were all stylish people. And we've seen photos all throughout history of, even in the worst possible economic under duress, Black people are still well put together. You see all these photos of folks that were scraping by, and it was really important that when you go out in the street, you are presenting yourself. And so I wanted to show that with basically everyone in the book.
Where are we now with that? Dandies are not, they're dandies in Africa, they're dandies. These are people who will dress well in poverty.
Yes.
I think there's something psychologically interesting about that, where you're going to put on your best, your Sunday go to meeting, the most impoverished people will get dressed on a Sunday, wear white gloves to, this will be the one day that you may bathe, when you have nothing else, you have your last dime, you're going to spend it on looking good.
Yeah. I grew up in a family where going to church, you put on your best. And I grew up with that being drilled into me. I grew up with a family that even when you were getting on a flight, to the Caribbean, from the Caribbean, you dressed as if you were going to church. That now it's, you dress comfortably and everyone wears pajamas when they travel. Yes. But as a little boy, like my mother would dress me as if I was going to church, if I was getting on a plane. And so I'm used to that psychology. Like that is so much a part of who we as the diaspora, that's just who we are.
what does that say about us that we've lost that? And I'm someone, I'm not mad at not having to wear a slip or girdle or stockings. Not mad at it. I'm not mad. I love pajamas. I love
Yeah.
pajamas. I'm not mad at it.
I'm not mad at it either.
But
And
I do feel like it says something. We lost our
yes.
decorum and our sense of maybe humanity. Maybe it's a symbol of a loss of something greater than just fashion.
Well, I think that is just evolving, and what fashion is has just changed. I still think that Black people dress better than on the average than everybody else. I really do.
I think that's true. I think that's
just
true.
we can make something out of literally nothing. and there will be just like a sash or an earring or just a little piece of lip or and someone has put, like, they know they're going to be seen. You will see it on the street. You'll see it in every neighborhood, in every state, you will just see it. And so that what those parameters are, like the idea of high fashion and us, being in service to that, has just shifted. And so we dressed effortlessly, even the kind of leisure wear that's going on right now. I mean, like it or not, Kanye West has done a lot to define.
Boo.
Right.
Boo. No,
right.
boo.
But
boo.
It is the truth.
Is it though? Is it?
I mean, it has this kind of leisure, this casual wear that is so common right now. I mean, I'm outside of the age bracket of someone who's wearing anything like that, but I can see that it's just an evolution of fashion, and I'm less judgmental about it as problematic as that person is. I can't change the fact that is very much the look right now. You walk up and down New York and you can see it.
I can't, I have to admit. So yesterday I was putting some tile on the roof because I committed to fixing the other side because I only did my side.
Wait, so, you doing that all yourself, Karen?
Yeah, well,
what's going on over there?
Some people drink. Other people, screw, I work, and that's the place that I go to escape, whatever drama's going on in my life. So it's a solitary.
That's your therapy.
Yeah. So I'm laying tile and I was like, he's got a light skinned friend, looks like Michael Jackson got dark skin. So I was thinking to myself, and I'm like, damn, Kanye got me out here with the light skin Jack
in your membrane, Karen.
In my head, rent free. I'm talking about the light skinned friend looks like Michael Jackson. That damn Kanye. All right, Leah Penniman. That is she related to Little Richard?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, who is it? Because I'm like, why don't I know these people?
Right.
Who is Leah Penniman? And you have a lot of artists, a lot of people, since you're talking spirits.
Yes.
Food, a lot of food, chef people.
Yes. And I'm saying in that's deliberate too. I'm saying that basically artists are our kind of social architects. These are the people that have defined that. This is why, despite being 12% of the population, our culture is the dominant culture in this country. Like
who's doing the count though? I demand a recount. I demand a recount though, George. I feel I agree. Every place I go, there are Black people.
I see a lot more Black people. I know. Seriously.
12%.
I'm just like 12%.
How's that possible?
That don't sound right.
Not at all.
With the reach that we have, and so much of popular culture being defined by our trends, 12% don't seem right at all.
I'm gonna ask you to do something I do quite frequently when I'm enjoying somebody. I'm gonna ask you to stick around. Will you stick around?
Are we going on a second date?
Yes, this is a second date.
Excellent.
And on the third date, magic happens. I just let you have a 3-date rule. 866-801-8255. George McCalman is here. We're going to be talking more about his book. And I want to get through some of these in terms of like, what will people do when they go to chapter this chapter on Faith Ringgold. I mean, you got Minnie Riperton in there. I was like, really? Come on now. La, 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 la,
Minnie.
la, la,
La
la.
la 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 la
Doody,
la la
doody,
la
doo,
la.
doo.
Do do
Come
do.
on.
Yeah.
Yes, let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go. And
Let's
I
do it.
have a lot of people like Harriet Powers that I'm just meeting for the first time. And I appreciate you bringing these people to life, because this is what the work is. This is our job as people here on this side of the earth, to erect and keep the names alive of people who paved the way. I said this yesterday, the first person to do something, we tend to forget. They never benefit. They don't have any of the accolades. I was talking about the first Black man to get a PhD in this country from Yale, Mr. Boucher, who died in an unmarked, and they put him in an unmarked grave. We don't know his
And
name.
this is so common.
Physics.
This nonsense is common.
So
And this is what I wanted. Yes. Yeah.
we're gonna make it uncommon to forget. We're gonna remember. What inspired you to do illustrated Black history? Why?
So the twin poles of Black existence: necessity and inspiration. I did a project 6 years ago where I was like, I'm gonna see if I can paint, daily Black history pioneer. I gave myself the assignment. I shared it on social media. And while I was doing it, several friends said, oh, this should be a book. And, I assumed it already was a book. And then I started looking around and realized there was no book. There was zilch, nada, nothing. And so I started getting a little fatutzt, a little angry, a little irritated. And, I decided to do it. And so I put together a pitch and got an agent and sent it around. And HarperCollins was the one that fought for it. They fought for this book.
As I mentioned, it was beautiful. Who was the first person that you knew you were gonna feature, and why?
Well, the very first person I illustrated in the original series is Edna Lewis. And Edna Lewis was at the forefront of my brain. I'm good friends with Bryant Terry, who is a local superstar out here. He did Black Food, and I actually am the designer of Black Food. And, there's a serenity and a divinity that Edna Lewis holds for a lot of Black culinary people, that she was so much of that person who crafted so much of the language that we use today describing Black cuisine. And so she is a patron saint of Black American cuisine. And so I did the illustration of her first, and then I did one of Gordon Parks. And it just kind of went on from there. Like, people that I had a tangential sense, but then when I did the research, I realized they were even more accomplished than what I had known in my kind of peripheral understanding. And I just wanted to dig in deeper. And I just really wanted to tell the stories underneath what we know, the 10 pioneers that are trotted out every Black History Month, every February. I was like, no, I want to dig deeper. I want to educate myself, re-educate myself. And for anyone else that's interested, I would like them to be curious about the people they don't know.
I feel like we are connected. I started something called Narrative with a similar edict, sitting down with Dr. Greg Carr in class with Carr, and I'm sitting there like, why don't I know this? Why don't I know this? How come I never heard of this person before? And it's like, where do we catalog these things where we have ownership, where it's accessible, where it'll be there forever, where we keep building and building and building upon it. So this is important, right? So I'm imagining this is volume 1. Right.
This is volume 1, and
yes.
I don't know that I made it clear to your listeners, but I also co-wrote the book and designed the book because I wanted it to come from a completely Black perspective. Even the typography in the book is Black typographers. So the cellular makeup of this book is super Black. And so I wanted to be able to just have it be rendered completely from that perspective, because the publishing industry is still overwhelmingly white.
You better say it. Tell them.
And I call the books that I design cultural artifacts, because they are. This book is a pioneer. It is as much pioneering as the people the subjects, the titans in this book. Even the process of getting the book made was a fight. And I had very much to kind of hunker down and not compromise what I knew the cultural language of this book needed to be, not just how it needed to read, but how it looked, how it was designed, how it was presented. All of that is me. And I was really clear that I did not need anyone's advice. I knew what this book needed to be, and I didn't need any outside advice getting it there.
So today's pub day.
Today's pub day.
So we need to make this a bestseller, so
Yes.
that volume 2 can, so that you can
Volume
be free
2, volume
to
3.
do that. Yes.
I have a list of
Yes.
over 500 names, Karen.
Okay.
There are a lot of people I want to tell. And a friend of mine who saw the book early was like, this book is a Bible for Hollywood, because each one of these people could have a movie, a
Yes.
television show made out of. There's so many people here that the general public may or may not know about, but they are all worthy of public tellings of their accomplishments.
866-801-8255. George McCalman, Illustrated Black History, honoring the iconic and the unseen. I love that you have Mary Church Terrell in there. Her daddy was one of the founders of Beale Street in Memphis, and funded a lot of the people that went to Black Wall Street to start that whole town of Greenwood. Brilliant, but she in her own right, amazing. I got to know about her through talking with Dr. Carr. So I'm like, okay, you're on point here. I see my brother Gil Scott Heron and Nina Simone. You're doing that. Patrice Rushen, though. Yes. She's sending me forget-me-nots.
Forget-me-nots.
To help me to remember.
Let me tell you why Patrice is in this book. What I wanted to represent, like, there are a lot of people in here who people will turn the page, be like, why is that person in there? There are a lot of other musicians. What I wanted to show is that Patrice is a working artist, working musician, still working. Like, there are people like Debbie Allen, who's not in the book, but representative of that. People who've just been working right under our noses the whole time. Like, everyone knows Patrice's song, but they don't know that she has been behind the scenes working. She is a classic musician. And she's not just a singer that, people trot out at their parties, but this is a really accomplished woman who has been in the game for decades. And you better act right around her. She knows the business, and she knows the business.
I love it. I love it. All right. I'm going through again. I want to know some things. I want to know some things as I'm scrolling through. You devote a page or two to each person. Like, what was the rhythm of that? It's an alphabetical order. The rhythm of the pages and how much you would tell. Is it, it's not Wikipedia. I don't believe in Wikipedia. So where did you go to source? Where did you go to source the information, George? And how did you determine how much you would write about each person?
So what I wanted to do in the telling of the stories was, for some people, I selected an aspect of their life. I wasn't looking to there's no Wikipedia-ness in this entire book. I wanted to tell stories. Even the people like Toni Morrison, James Baldwin, there are a few people that people will just recognize. But what I wanted to show is, in some cases, the impact on my life, the impact culturally, spiritually, not just what they did, but the effect that they had. And so it was really, one of the patron saints of this book was Dr. Maya Angelou. And I did her portrait early in the process, and she was up in my studio for the 2 years that followed, because what she represented was someone who learned of her success and how much she was appreciated while she was alive. And that's something that we can take for granted, but that's something most of our pioneers, most of our Black pioneers, did not have the luxury of understanding. People, we talk about giving people their flowers. Our pioneers, most of them did not get their flowers. And so I wanted to basically show the effect that these towering figures in American history had on me and our culture.
Claudette Colvin, thank you for honoring her in here. Charleston Caterers. Charleston Caterers.
Yes.
All of them. Every caterer in Charleston. Like, all of the Charleston Caterers.
all 4 of them. That there was this group early on, we tend to talk about Black cuisine as being kind of relegated to a certain aspect of basically working for other people. What I wanted to show is that people were successful all throughout American history, that despite the odds stacked against them, there were many entrepreneurs that defined a success in their fields, that it wasn't just like people are so used to the porn aspect of trauma that we don't actually just we can talk about how difficult our forebears had it, but we can also signal their successes in the midst of that. And I wanted
Mm,
to pull out people who had kind of disappeared into history to show that this is our foundation too.
okay. As we're on the show, I am buying this book, and I'm gonna ask my brother Rock Harper, one of my favorite chefs in the whole wide world. Not just because he can cook his behind off and make the best fried chicken in the world, but he loves us. I'm gonna
Yes.
ask him to buy it, and I'm gonna need you to feature him in the next volume.
Uh,
Uh,
you
yeah,
got it.
I'm doing it. I'm doing this,
You
in
got it.
real time,
You got it.
because
Bringing all the people together.
we got to, there's very few. uh, there's a lot of folk that do things for commerce, right? We
Mhm.
know this is a world where there's a handful of people who are picked and selected, primarily because they're not really going to change the system,
Right.
right? We all know, we inherently know. And if you're one of those that are picked, you have a responsibility. I was picked early on in my
That's
20s.
how I see this. It is a responsibility. Exactly. Yes. Preach it.
Yes. So once you realize, because sometimes you don't, you just think you're great. And there's a lot of great people, and you are absolutely great. But you also got to know you were picked because they saw something in you that either perpetuated a certain kind of trope, or you could be controlled.
Right.
At the point that you realize, okay, I speak well, or or I'm fitting this mammy trope or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Uh-huh.
fat and black, and I'm loud, and that's great because that's the image that they want to perpetuate. Now you have a choice to make. Do you continue? And we always fool ourselves. We think we can change it from the inside.
Of course. Of
You
course.
know, but you have to build simultaneously. And I think we have to start to break down all of the vestiges of these power structures that have kept us
Mhm.
in bondage, all of us in
Mhm.
bondage, and
Yes.
break free and see what's really there. Because, what you think is great is only sometimes what they told you is great over and over and over again, until it becomes, you got a light skinned friend, looks like Michael Jackson, and then you just repeat these lines
Yes.
thinking that is genius. And it's
Yes.
probably not. This is what
And
I'm saying. It's
and
in my
I and I think a word I use a lot in my life is agency. We have not even tested the boundaries, the parameters of our own agency with each other.
come
And
on.
and we have had so many successes that have been uh, destroyed, actively destroyed, that where people came to destroy our successes, and that does not keep us from rallying back. And I believe in my own agency. I didn't ask for anyone's permission to make this book. I just went and did it.
That's what I'm talking about. So, George, I'm going to invite you back to just come and chat beyond the book, but we're going to make sure that the book is everything. I want to thank you for
Thank
being here
you.
today. I
Thank you. I want
appreciate you.
everyone to buy this book
Yes.
and send it to everybody. Send to all the people you think don't need it.